All right, I want to bring in CTV's political commentator and the former leader of the NDP this morning. We've got a whole bunch of things to discuss with you this morning. Tom, good to see you.
Good to see you, Marcia.
So let's talk about the minority Liberals outstretching their arms to welcome Chris d'Entremont. What does it say to you about the state of the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre's leadership? And we should mention, Tom, that we haven't heard from Poilievre specifically on this yet.
No, he's been sending out Andrew Scheer and other people to beat up on Chris d'Entremont for crossing the floor. You know, you mentioned in the intro that I'm the former head of the NDP. It was the only party in Parliament that had a firm rule against floor crossing. For us in the NDP, it was always a question of ethics. You got elected with that party, you can become an independent, but you can't become a member of our caucus until you run. That actually happened when I was leader, 2015. Maria Morani, very respected, serious person. I mean, she's a criminologist who's well known. She was with the Bloc, and for reasons that for us were very noble, she said she couldn't stand the Bloc's attitude towards minorities. She left the party and wanted to come with us. We said, look, run in the election, which she did, and that's fine, but you can't be part of caucus. For us, it's a question of principle. You can't become an NDPer. It's not fair for your voters because you didn't run for the NDP in the election, and I think that that's the right way to look at it. Chris d'Entremont, of course, it has his own view. The people in his riding, as we just heard in that Vox Pop, seem to be okay with it largely, but it's not just about him or about the Liberals. It's really about a question of parliamentary ethics, and some great work has been done on this. It was a book just published, a big book by people who hold the chair from the Jarzowski Foundation in political ethics, and it's No I in Team is the name of the book, and it's a great book, and it talks exactly about this type of thing, floor crossing amongst others, and I have a real problem with it. I still do today.
You have a problem?
That's interesting that he has a problem with floor crossings, but when Jagmeet Singh was in this like multi-year coalition with Justin Trudeau, he didn't really criticize it. He didn't say, he had an opportunity. He was still a political commentator, political analyst for CTV last year and the year prior and the year prior to that, while Jagmeet was sucking at the teat of Justin Trudeau. And he could have used this platform to be like, hey, not only am I against floor crossings, but I'm also against like coalitions and all that stuff, right? Or maybe I'm just looking for a reason to be angry. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of, there's parallels to it. I know they're different. I know flow crossing is like you're going from one team to the next, but coalitions isn't it like kind of similar? Like you're just trying to use each other. I understand that's kind of what politics is, but, or maybe I'm just stretching. I don't know. I feel like there's relevancy in what I just said.
With it. I'm also wondering, and I'm sure you heard Scott Reid, he was describing that fever that was going through Ottawa yesterday. Yeah. There was all this speculation that there were going to be
a whole bunch of others.
Yeah, 5 or more people, could be, a great big mess, all kinds of political intrigue. That didn't happen. But having said that, Tom, do you see others crossing the floor? And I just have to ask the question, how much guts does it take to do that?
Takes a lot because, of course, the people who won from the Conservatives under Mr. Poilievre were swimming against a very strong Liberal tide under Carney. So they're the ones who tend to have the most conservative ridings. But I will tell you this. I've rarely seen so many Conservatives talk on the record and off the record about how upset they were about the attack by Pierre Poilievre against the RCMP. That was absolutely not on for many of them. It was totally unseemly for the leader of the opposition to do what he did. He tried to change his story after saying he was talking about one individual leader. All you have to do is read what he actually said. He talked about the RCMP, and it was not at all in character for the Conservative Party to have a leader attacking the RCMP the way he did.
So,
yeah, that was a weird thing, right? Like, didn't he just straight up say that Trudeau should have been jailed, which is something that we can agree on. Most of us can agree on that there should have been some form of repercussions or jailing from the Trudeau era. And then he like walked it back or something, like weirdly. I don't know. It's like double down, dude. That's the thing, is double down on it. Like, Canada historically hasn't really embraced this might be an unpopular opinion, and I'm sorry if it pisses people off, but it needs to be said. Okay, either you're in or you're out when it comes to the tactic with conservatism in Canada. You can be a strong conservative without being the Trump type, right? And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but we know that Trump is like out there. He says like crazy things, like very shocking and headliney things, right? And some people like it, some people don't. It's irrelevant. Canada historically hasn't really embraced that. And Pierre Poilievre, when he was against Trudeau, he was kind of doing that. He was saying very like headliney things about Trudeau, bashing Trudeau, which we all embraced because it wasn't so much about the fact that it was finally someone in Canada was being a little bit like Trump, just like way out there. But it was more the fact that somebody was finally saying the shit to Trudeau that needed to be said. It was very isolated to Trudeau. Like that doesn't exist before Trudeau, and I don't know if it exists after Trudeau. And as much as I like Trump, I don't know if that mentality, that approach to politics in Canada really works. Like it might work for you, and it works for me. Like I like that Trump style stuff. I like the chaos. I love it. It's entertaining. But like Canadians, like the average normie or the average liberal or conservative or centrist, the average voter in Canada doesn't really like that. And so I think that Pierre's approach is he's somewhat dabbled into that, like that style, right? That I want to call it like a Trump style. Let's just say it as it is. But then he pulls back on it, and you're either in or you're out is my approach to it, is my analysis. And if he's in, if he commits fully, then commit fully and say the things that need to be said, or don't commit fully and go back to appealing to the centrists. But Canada, like conservatives have never won by appealing to the centrists, right? It's been over 10 years now. So that's just my analysis. I could be wrong. We can agree to disagree on things. It's okay.
Where do you think this goes from here, Tom? Do you see others following?
Well, we'll find out if Don Tremont is right. I mean, he's the one who let slip or indicated that there might be others. And others said to him, "Oh, I understand. What you're doing, that sort of thing."
You think it was a slip?
Well, no. I think that the Liberals knew that he had information, but is that information really valid? In other words, is it somebody, an old buddy of his, saying in the Conservative caucus, "I get you, buddy. I totally understand." And he took that to mean, oh, they're crossing the floor too? Or is it actual preparedness to do that? The Conservatives have made it as uncomfortable as they possibly could for Mr. D'Entremont. The attacks have been quite personal. But it's not even about D'Entremont. I sincerely believe it's about the institution itself. This is how it works. You put yourself forward. You say, this is my party. This is what I stand for. Vote for me. You can't just change that 6 months later and say, oh, everything's changed and now I'm going to go with another party. That's not fair for the people who voted for you.
And then lastly, do you think that this is taking away from substantive conversation about the budget, Tom?
Well, it won't take away for long because Elizabeth May, I think, had a really good take on the budget with regard to its shortcomings on environment, which are many. It was such a surprise to see that from somebody who knows as much about environment and sustainable development as Mark Carney. And there's no leader in the G7 who knows as much as him. And yet, canceling a tree planting program to bring 2 billion trees to be planted. We lost over 8 billion trees just in the 2023 wildfires. It was about time we started doing something to correct that. Then he says he's going to remove, emissions caps on oil and gas if we can come up with a way to hold on to carbon, to sequester carbon. Well, guess what? Trees are the best way to do that. So it was all a muddle with regard to the progressive side. And Carney's already being tasked, with being far too conservative. And the one thing that he could have shown a little bit of, more progressive leaning attitude on the environment, he completely messed up. So I'm not convinced. I'm pretty sure Elizabeth May is not going to get to vote, won't vote for this thing, unless, of course, Carney does something unexpected and changes, for example, the cancellation cancellation of the tree planting program. I'm looking at the NDP. I can't see how any of them can vote for this thing. I mean, you're promising to furlough tens of thousands of civil servants, and the civil service unions have always been the backbone of your support, and you're going to go along and vote for that? Good luck with that. So I think that, it's going to be very close one way or the other. By the way, keep an eye on the block. This is a famous game that sometimes gets played. They've been huffing and puffing and saying, "Whoa, we had, these couldn't be discussed. We had these absolute requirements for the budget, and we're going to vote against it." Yeah, let's see if everybody from the bloc actually shows up for the vote. I'm convinced that to a person, every single member of the Conservative caucus will be there to vote against the budget. I'm not worried about that. But keep an eye on the bloc, because they have to go before the NDP in terms of the vote. And I'd love to see whether or not they're actually all going to be there, or they're going to give themselves a little bit of a cushion just to make sure the government doesn't fall and we're into an election. I don't think anybody in their right mind would want an election. Marcia, sending Canadians to the polls in the middle of the Christmas season, again, you'd get pummeled, whoever provoked that.
I don't always agree with Tom. In fact, I rarely agree with Tom. But on this point, I fully agree. An election right now is not good. Not good at all. And I'm sorry, like, maybe you think differently. Maybe you think Pierre would win like some magical majority. I don't. I wish I could fall with that belief, but I really don't, because when we look at who is actually controlling any form of a narrative right now, it's still the Liberals. The Liberals still have the media pushing their agenda. The Liberals are still the ones, even though they're failing to negotiate with America and secure a trade deal with Trump, they're still the ones that are the one doing it, and they can still manipulate and control that narrative. The Conservatives have an opportunity. They had, and they still have an opportunity to try to redirect that narrative, but I don't think it's nearly enough to sway any voters. In fact, I think the Conservatives would actually lose some seats, and I think that the Liberals would gain the majority, because that's just how it is in Canada. We're just a progressive country, and I think that the Liberals would be more strongly motivated and incentivized to go to vote to give that majority than the Conservatives would to go and vote and block the Liberal majority. That's just how I see it. There's not enough political momentum right now for, one, a massive turnout at the polls. Like, maybe it's just me, right? Like, we can only speak using our own set of experiences and our own bias, and my bias is I'm like politically exhausted. I'm so politically exhausted. Like, I wouldn't even want to go to the poll myself and vote. I just wouldn't. Like, what the hell's the point? That's just how I feel. Would I go to the poll right now next week if there was an election? I don't know. But right now, today, if I had to vote, I'd be like, fuck, I don't want to. Like, I'm just so sick and tired of it, right? What's the point? So maybe that's just my bias. Maybe that's just me feeling defeated. I don't know. Maybe you have a different set of views on it. So let me know down in the comments how you feel about it. Do you think that the Conservatives would win in an election next week? Do you think the Liberals would? Let me know your reasoning down below.